Denny Hamlin is in the middle of one of the greatest all-time slumps I can remember an all-time great driver having. But his crew chief, Chris Gabehart, says that the team is still very much a championship contender. Does he have a point? How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. I hope you've had a wonderful week. Kansas is right around the corner, but before we get to Kansas, let's talk Darlington. Because ever since I saw Denny Hamlin go from leading the race late at Darlington, leading over 40 laps, to suddenly 7th due to maybe a questionable green flag pit strategy, to then 18th after a bad pit stop on pit road, to then wrecked, all in the course of about 20-30 minutes, I knew I had to make this video because Denny Hamlin is a NASCAR superstar. He's, in many's eyes, the best driver in NASCAR history to never win a NASCAR championship, at least not yet. But he is in the middle of an all-time great slump. 12 races into the 2022 season, Denny Hamlin has one top 10. Now granted, that one top 10 was actually a top 5, and actually that top 5 was actually a win. He did get a win at Richmond this year, a race that was somewhat decided by fuel mileage, but Hamlin, always good at Richmond, was up in contention all day long. He earned that win. But outside of Richmond, this has been a disastrous season for now driver and team co-owner Denny Hamlin. His two drivers haven't done that well either this year, but we're not going to really focus on them. We're going to focus on Hamlin, the driver. I want to go through many of Hamlin's races this year and highlight where the team messed up, where the driver messed up, basically where their race went wrong. And I also want to react to comments his crew chief Chris Gabehart made to NBC Sports this past weekend, where he said the 11 team is still one of the most dangerous teams in the sport today. But first, let's begin with the Daytona 500, the first points-paying race of the season. Hamlin's a 3-time Daytona 500 winner, but he couldn't escape the big one when Harrison Burton got turned by Brad Keselowski and flipped upside down. He clipped Hamlin's 11 car, completely destroyed that thing. You could see him skewed crab walk into pit road, ended Hamlin's race early. Fast forward a week to Auto Club, he was inside the top 10 on the last lap when in the final corners, I'm not sure, something broke, he ran out of fuel, he ended up finishing 14th, 15th actually, and things got worse the next week at Las Vegas when Hamlin, maybe with the best car in the field, had led over 30 laps, blew the transmission coming off of pit road when he downshifted, I guess on accident, muscle memory, still used to the old H-pattern shifter, not ready for the current sequential shifter, just an honest mistake by the driver there, ruined their day, they ended up in the garage. Atlanta, super speedway race now, Hamlin pushing Larson gets sideways and the two crashed into each other, another crash for Hamlin. Finished 29th in that race. Let's talk Martinsville, because Martinsville was the one race this year where Hamlin was just way off. He's usually great at Martinsville. He's won there 5 times in his Cup career. It was a weird race with very little passing and unfriendly weather conditions, but he just sucked. He finished that race multiple laps down. Engine issue at Bristol Dirt caused him to finish outside the top 30. He said on Twitter that a lot of dirt got in the engine and that's what messed that up. At Talladega, he was running in the top 5 with just a few laps to go when I guess he ran out of gas or something happened. The car stumbled. He fell back to the very end of the lead draft, finished 18th. And after that race, of course, he shared a Family Guy meme on Twitter about Kyle Larson wrecking his two 2311 cars late in that race. That caused NASCAR to step in and mandate he take sensitivity training that week. Things have to start turning around at some point, right? Wrong. Just a couple weeks ago at Dover, Hamlin was leading the race, had just won a stage, and was winning the race off pit road when his left front tire falls off. Literally rolls right past him like something out of a cartoon. Hamlin, of course, went to the tail end of the field. He still worked his way towards the front, only to get caught up in Cody Ware's crash. Ended up finishing 21st in that race after leading 67 laps. And then this most recent race at Darlington, I just mentioned it. He had to start at the rear, but then drove to the race lead midway through the race. Bad pit stop, put him back in traffic. He got caught up in a big wreck, finished 21st for the second week in a row. It's been a disastrous season for Hamlin. And I'm sorry, Denny Hamlin fans, that you had to sit through this and relive all that. I'm not trying to pick on Hamlin or his fans. It's just remarkable that a driver like Denny Hamlin, driving for a team like Joe Gibbs Racing and Toyota, one of the biggest powerhouses in the NASCAR garage, it's amazing that they have only one top 10 finish through the first 12 races, an average finish of 22.3, by far the worst of Hamlin's career. This is a guy that the last 3 seasons, 19, 20, and 21, had an average finish of 9.1. 9.1 the last 3 years to 22.3. My gosh! I forgot to mention, but when that wheel fell off at Dover, NASCAR suspended crew chief Chris Gabehart, as well as 2 of Hamlin's crew members, 4 races, but the team appealed that penalty, so they are not serving that penalty yet. Chris Gabehart has still been on the box the past week, and presumably will be on the box again this weekend at Kansas. But Dustin Long from NBC interviewed Chris Gabehart at Darlington this past weekend, and Gabehart, despite the slump the team's in, still sounds very optimistic about the team's championship chances. Telling Dustin Long, "I'm convinced that we are the most dangerous 22nd place points team in the history of the sport. I'm convinced that we are the most venomous snake laying in the grass. Any week we can jump up and turn this thing on its ear. We could have won last week. We could have won this week." He's not far off, and actually I would agree with Chris Gabehart that Hamlin may be the most dangerous 22nd place team in NASCAR history, because the one thing they have that's difficult to teach, that's difficult to gain throughout the season, is speed. I wouldn't put him up there with all the Hendrick guys just yet. I wouldn't even put him up there with Ross Chastain, but he's in the ballpark. All of Joe Gibbs Racing really is. He's led 153 laps this year. He has 2 stage wins. There's only 3 other drivers with more than 2 stage wins. That's Blaney, Byron, and Truex. Again, speed is the most important thing you can have in NASCAR. Execution is where they've really fallen short this year, and that's the kind of thing that you can clean up over the course of a season. And keep in mind, under this format, there is an added emphasis put on those final 10 races. The first 26 matter. You'd like to amass a lot of playoff points to make those last 10 a little easier. But as Tony Stewart proved under a slightly different format in 2011, if you get hot at the right time, you can be tough to beat. And look at some of those races in the playoffs. Darlington, Hamlin just led 42 laps there. Talladega, Hamlin led 9 laps. Las Vegas, Hamlin led 31. And, Martinsville's also in the playoffs and Hamlin struggled there, but I think the conditions, it's safe to say, will be very different when they visit Martinsville in the fall. And again, Hamlin's won there 5 times in his career. I trust Hamlin in crunch time to at least be competitive at Martinsville. Maybe not win, but be competitive. It's really a remarkable story to begin this year that they've had so much speed, they've led so many laps, yet they only have not just 1 win. Like, 1 win is honestly a little disappointing considering the speed Hamlin's had, but only 1 top 10? These are the kind of stats you just don't see very often, and so it's worth pointing out when we do see it, when it does happen, but it's also important we acknowledge that the team does have speed, and with this current point structure, as long as that speed sticks around for those final 10 races and the execution is cleaned up, less mistakes on pit road, less bad calls atop the pit box, don't miss a shift exiting pit road, you'll be fine. You still have a chance at making a deep, deep playoff run. And Denny Hamlin is no stranger to deep playoff runs. He's been in the championship 4 in recent years. It'd be ironic if the year he struggles out the gates is the year he finally collects that trophy at the end of the season. Share your thoughts down below. Do you think Denny Hamlin and the 11 team are legit championship threats at this point? Or do you think we're getting way too far ahead of ourselves and you need to see them finish some races first before you make such a prediction? Let me know down in the comment section below. I look forward to seeing your responses. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We talk NASCAR day in, day out here on Out of the Groove. And as always, a big thank you to my amazing Patreon supporters. I truly appreciate your support. Couldn't do this show without it. Kansas this weekend. We'll be back Sunday night talking about the race. See what happens. Maybe Denny Hamlin turns things around this weekend. His fans can only hope at this point.